Let's rock and roll, shall we? Hello and welcome to Footnotes, the stories that won't make the history books because they don't matter. I'm your host, Emily Whitehead, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, Footnotes. It's called Footnotes. Guys, the news can be a lot sometimes, and by sometimes, I mean all the time. There's so much to read and learn about, and with the internet and social media, there's pressure to be locked into everything that's going on all the time, and it can be incredibly daunting to know where to start. The answer is not here. Here, we cover the stories of the trivial, the frivolous, and the inconsequential. From celebrity slip-ups to award show crashes to mysterious egg disappearances, the stories here certainly can't be considered hard journalism, but boy, are they still fun to yap about. So let's get started with the first episode, shall we? Guys, the Oscars are here. Well, they'll be here in March. The nominations are out, however, which means it is time for Hollywood's annual ass-kissing season. The Oscars are very political. I don't think I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. And none are more political than the Big Daddy Award himself, or herself, the award for Best Picture. What does it kind of mean to be political? Should we start with that? What that kind of means is that popularity is always going to be taken into account. For example, if we think back to last year, fan favorite film Barbie, personal fave of mine. This is my opinion. I think the fact that it was so well received by audiences played a huge part in it getting the amount of nominations it did. I think it's the kind of film that typically Hollywood would not be going around taking super seriously because it's a girl film. It's also, it's marketed perhaps to a younger audiences. It's made to kind of be a bit more appealing to children. And it's the Barbie movie. I think if it wasn't received in like the volume that it was, like being as well like the first solely female directed film to make it into the 1 billion club, I really do not think it would have been taken as seriously at the Oscars. So that's good. That's a good example. It also, is inherently always going to be political because it's a very public award show. Not only is it shown on TV, millions of people watch it every single year live, and then even more so watch it back after the fact. It is also on something that like everyone has access to. So for example, like everyone has access about films. Most people watch films. People are going to have opinions on films. It's a very accessible thing to have opinions about. And so everyone's going to have opinions, which means when a million people have opinions about something, the award for that thing is going to be really political. For example, if we kind of cast back to 2020 and 2023, there were no female nominees for Best Director. There's obviously been lots of years where there's not been a female nominee for Best Director, but those were the two most recent, very recent years in which there was no nominee for Best Director. That obviously caused like a big upheaval because everyone was like, hey guys, what's this about? Everyone's watching, there are lots of eyes on it, people are going to cause a stir. On the kind of other side of the political spectrum, we cast our minds back to when Parasite was going around getting all the awards. In my opinion, very well deserved, but some people were very unhappy, particularly that it won Best Picture because it was an international film. It wasn't American, and that means that it shouldn't have won Best Picture because people had this idea in their mind that Best Picture was only for American films because it's like a Hollywood thing or whatever. That's not true. That's never been true, for one thing. For another thing, it was quite ironic that around that time, a lot of the people that were very upset by Parasite winning Best Picture were like, you know what should have won instead? 1917. Thing is, 1917, also an international film. It's a British film. It's not an American film. But I think, not surprised the people that were very upset by the existence of Parasite and Parasite's popularity probably didn't necessarily mean not American and more meant not white. But I'm just speculating. Hey, what do I know? And also, that is a whole other thing we can get into. That could be a whole other episode in itself. The point is, the public's opinion always has to be taken into account when the Academy is deciding who's going to win any of the awards, particularly Best Picture, which is why in kind of the months that we have in between when the nominations are announced and then when the actual ceremony is, filmmakers are encouraged to spend that time sucking up to everyone in the Academy and, most importantly, not getting into scandals. That has not happened this year. One by one, almost every film, or a huge chunk of the films, seem to have been discounting themselves from the running in the last couple weeks. So as a run through the kind of films that we have that have been nominated for Best Picture, let's go through them. So we have Neon's Anora, A24's The Brutalist, Searchlight Pictures' A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic, Conclave, June Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. And more so than ever, there have been so many scandals from when the nominations were announced at the end of last year to, I mean, the Oscars haven't even happened yet. There's still room for more to happen, but we thought we'd run through this first episode. We're going to just run through all the fun little scandals that have happened in the last couple months. Let's start with Anora, because this was kind of the first one to kick off this trend of self-cancellation. Maybe cancellation's a strong word. We're going to run through them, and then we're going to give them a fumble rating, I've decided, of how much they're fumbling their own bag here in winning an Oscar. So, Anora, if we cast our minds back to everything that was around December of last year, we have the new season of Actors on Actors, which is kind of when, like, you get two actors, they're paired together, and they interview each other. Generally, it's a little bit awkward. There are some really good ones where the two actors have, like, really excellent chemistry. Some of them could have been better. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is, so we had Mikey Madison, who plays the titular character of Anora, talking to Pamela Anderson. She was doing press circuits a lot of the time because of her new film, The Last Showgirl, which is actually a very good film, I should say. Didn't get nominated for Best Picture, still an amazing film. In that video, though, there was what I would imagine now as a slightly regrettable moment where Pamela Anderson asked her, oh, did you have a lot of intimacy coordinators? Did you have intimacy coordinators for this film? Because it's a very raunchy film. There's a lot of sex scenes. It's about a sex worker, right? The main character is a sex worker. There's going to be a lot of sex scenes in this film. And it's a big thing nowadays to have an intimacy coordinator. And so Pamela Anderson says, did you have an intimacy coordinator? And Mikey Madison goes, no, we didn't. I was given the option of one, and I declined to have one.
Did you have an intimacy coordinator? That's the big thing now these days, right?
Yeah, well, you know, for our film, we didn't. It was a choice that I made, that the filmmakers offered to me if I wanted to bring on an intimacy coordinator or not. And at the time, Mark Eidelstein, who plays Yvonne in the film, we decided that it would be best just to keep it small.
This caused a bit of a stir. Initially, you might think, if you're not as familiar on what this means, why it would matter for the actress, you know, volunteering, you know, saying herself she personally was offered one, but opted out of the choice to have an intimacy coordinator. Especially because they are, it should be noted, a recent thing, really only kind of becoming common practice in around 2018 with the rise of the Me Too movement. However, there is a reason we have them now. And I also think we can agree that just because something in the film industry was not common practice before 2018 does not mean we shouldn't have it now. Because a lot of things were not done for a very long time and were very problematic in the film industry. Inherently, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, see the Weinstein Company for further details. Let's just run through, for reference, what an intimacy coordinator does. So an intimacy coordinator works with the actors and production teams on film and television sets to ensure intimate scenes are filmed safely, respectfully, and consensually. That's kind of the overall thing. So something they might do is choreograph the intimate scenes, advocate for actors' comfort to, you know, the director and the rest of the crew, facilitate open communication between all parties involved. That is not just the two actors, or more potentially, the actors involved in the intimate scene, but also everyone, you know, who might be in the crew, who might be, you know, the director, everyone involved. Basically, they mostly act as a liaison between actors and production regarding intimate moments, as well as often like choreographing. They do a lot of stuff. So for example, an example of something they might do is an actor might feel more comfortable with a closed set for a film, which basically just means that only the most essential crew that absolutely need to be present are. So there might be someone like a runner or something who would be there on a normal set, but they're not necessarily like the absolute needed. So a closed set basically just means only the absolutely essential crew members are around. They might also ask for, they can talk in advance, they can request a body double, for example, which would mean that there would be like another actor. Often, people who are specifically trained to be body doubles, you can kind of see an example of this in Love Actually. They might be like, pornographic actors, or they might not be. Basically, that just means that they're generally like areas like their breasts or their genitals or their butt or whatever might be shown instead of the actors. They might request more cover-ups. It's all sorts of things. It kind of makes sure everything's safe. If there's a specific act that's going to be imitated, an actor might not feel comfortable doing that. It's just to make sure everything's going well. It's a tricky situation, right? Filming a sex scene is not going to be super easy, and it is important, that everyone feels comfortable. And there is a really bad history of sex scenes in film production going poorly for various reasons for both the cast and the crew, but most commonly lead female actresses, not always, but it is I'd say the most common example of like an intimate scene, someone becoming uncomfortable or something more sinister even occurring, which is why it is not insignificant that it was Mikey Madison, the lead female actress, who chose to forego having an intimacy coordinator. However, an intimacy coordinator is not just there for the actor, they're there for the whole crew. But there's a lot of background actors participating in a lot of, maybe not intimate scenes necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of raunchy stuff going on in this film, and not all of it is done by bigger actors like Mikey Madison, who might have people there to advocate for them. And having an intimacy coordinator on set for a film that is going to have a lot of these kind of scenes would not go amiss. We don't know the details as well, is something that's bear in mind. We don't know the details of what she actually means by I was given the option of one, but I declined to have one. We don't know the details because they haven't been given. Some people are kind of reading into the situation going, maybe this means that, there was pressure maybe put on her to decline to have one. They were told that you can if you want, but we need to save budget. We don't know what the conversation was. We don't know to what extent she was offered one. We don't, because they've been pretty quiet about it. No one's kind of giving any more details. The fact of the matter is, it's a big red flag on the ethics of the production behind the film, which it's just not helping their case in terms of Best Picture. It is also, very importantly, not Mikey Madison's fault, really, at all. It's not her responsibility to make sure that those protections are given. She's the actor. She's there to, play the character, do the scenes. Her responsibility is not to make sure that appropriate safety measures are taken on set. That is the responsibility of the director and the producers. And it is entirely, on them. Sean Baker, the director, that really was his responsibility to make sure that was there, if at all possible. When I was researching for this, I was quite surprised that it was a male director for Nora. It's fine, okay? I know some people are going to be like, why can't men do anything? It's when a film is about not just a woman, but a woman experiencing a particularly woman-centered experience, like being a sex worker. That's generally something that is far more commonly, it's a specific experience that is related to women in general. And it's just odd to me to have a man writing and directing it. It's fine, they can do it, but for me, it just makes me question it slightly. I can be proved wrong. I have been before. It just makes me go, it's just, look, the thing with this overall, just not a good look overall for this new era of Hollywood that the Oscars are really trying to push at the moment. It just doesn't help the film. Will it discount it entirely? Probably not. We had the BAFTAs. Actually, I need to check. And Nora did very well at the it won Best Direction and Best Film and Leading Act. I think it won Best Screen. It won a lot of awards at the BAFTAs, because the BAFTAs were just the other day from when I'm recording this. and it like ate up. So clearly it's not fumbled it too bad. I was quite surprised. I don't think it's gonna win. That would not be my pick for Best Picture at the Oscars. And this has also been a while ago. Like, this was in December-ish that this whole thing kind of came out. And clearly, you know, they've managed to soak it up a bit. So I'm going to give this fumble rating a 4 out of 10. We'll give it a 4 out of 10 for Anora. Moving right along, we have I'm Still Here by Sony Pictures. This one, before this, I really hadn't heard much about. It's technically not out, I think, in Australia at the time of recording this. It's one of those, you know, film that's been on a very, like, limited release. It's not a big one. Like, we have June 2, which is amongst these. It's a much smaller film in comparison, but I'm Still Here is a 2024 political drama film about a Brazilian activist who fought for the return of her missing husband during the military dictatorship in Brazil. This fumble is a classic one. Tale as old as time in Hollywood. Bit of blackface. The lead, Fernanda Torres, in a 2008 sketch comedy show Fantástico, which is a Brazilian show, in a sketch did blackface. There's not a lot you can really say to elaborate on that. That's bad, right? So this whole thing, right, it only came out, obviously it was in 2008 that this happened. This was not like really a known thing until a bit ago. Obviously it's not that surprising when things kind of are in the spotlight a bit more. They always end up, you know, if there's a scandal to be found, that is when it's going to come up. It's not when someone's kind of living in obscurity. But I'm Still Here was kind of making the rounds. It got quite a few nominations for all the different awards that are going on during this year's award season. And so now is the time that these, you know, things come up. Fernanda Torres has apologized for this, with a statement saying, "Almost 20 years ago, I appeared in blackface in a comedy sketch from a Brazilian TV show. I am very sorry for this," she tells Deadline. "I am making this statement as it is important to me to address this swiftly to avoid further pain and confusion." Now, obviously, blackface, bad, all right? I'm not... Controversial statement alert, right? Not good. Objectively, not good. She has apologized for whatever that's worth. It's not my place, you know, to determine about whether or not, because, you know, to determine whether or not that's acceptable. For me, in the apology, it is a bit icky to kind of do like the lead in with the almost 20 years ago. Like it was, what, 16, 17 years ago? You're rounding up, for one thing. But also like, you know, front-weighting it with this apology of being like, guys, it was almost 20 years. I don't know. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. That, to me, just kind of gives me a bit icky. Like, obviously, it was a while ago, but, like, you haven't, you know, addressed this. Maybe she didn't remember. I don't know. But it wasn't addressed until suddenly everyone was upset, right? Like, you had then 20 years to kind of make this a thing that you were willing to talk about, and you weren't. So there's that. Also, 2008 was a very long time ago, but I feel like we knew not to do blackface in 2008. I was very young then, so maybe my memory fails me, but I fear at that time it was not, even in the dark age of 2008, not acceptable even back then. In saying that, you know, I will say, from a quick Google search of Fernanda Torres now, this scandal is not coming up anymore. So it seems that her PR team has been, you know, working overtime to sweep this under the rug in time for the big day. I want to know how this did in the BAFTAs for reference. Let me check. Film on English language, yeah. It didn't do... It didn't devour in the way that Anora did. I don't think this was the thing that fumbled it. This wasn't a particularly high profile one. I think the best kind of shot they had in terms of awards was probably for Best Actress. And unfortunately, you know, the fumble was by the lead actress. So, you know, it may have fumbled. Like, I don't think they were going to win Best Picture anyway. I don't think at the same time this is necessarily going to fumble for Best Picture, because clearly it's been, you know, pretty well. In saying that, I do think it may have fumbled their strongest contender for leading actress. So for that, I'm going to give it a fumble rating of 7 out of 10. We're giving I'm Still Here a fumble rating of 7 out of 10 for this scandal. Moving on. The Brutalist. So this was a scandal that kicked off the new year, was The Brutalist and its use of generative AI, the new favorite, the new cool tool on the block that everyone just can't wait to use. So, The Brutalist, you know, the director was quite public. He kind of I think I have this later on, but he had an interview where he talked about two main uses of AI in this film. One was perfecting the young Hungarian that was spoken by Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones. I think it like tweaked the audio to basically make the pronunciation a little more accurate to what Hungarian should sound like. And second, perhaps more notably, was creating the architectural drawings and the buildings in the style of the fictional architect that the film is about. These are two very different uses of AI, in my opinion. AI is a word that is often misused and is also way more broad than I feel like I'm able to have knowledge on. I think most people are able to have knowledge on, but from my, you know, limited knowledge, I would say these are very different uses. Now, the perfecting the Hungarian, for me, and generally what the general consensus online and discussion around this is causing much less of a stir than the second use. Like, the Hungarian, it's giving more, it's AI as a tool and not AI as a replacement for human labor. It's obviously, you know, I think the argument could be made that could they not have got someone who speaks Hungarian, hired an actor who spoke Hungarian for this film that is very largely in Hungarian, especially, you know, considering Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones, huge names. Could we have not have got a smaller person who perhaps actually spoke the language that so much of the film is in? But then again, you know, it's the film industry. They need names. Names are very important. Names is money, and, you know, all that stuff. The thing that I kind of would like to focus a bit more on is the creation of the architectural drawings through generative AI. That was very much like a classic, like, they didn't use Midjourney, they used this other form of AI that I don't have written down here, but it was one that's been used in quite a lot of Hollywood films. But it was like a classic Midjourney style. Here we have this, make a new drawing in with this style and make it give this and this and this, right? And it churned out these drawings that were then used in the film. It's a bit confusing because the director kind of went back on this after the backlash to this statement and kind of went, no guys, no generative AI was used in the actual, like, we didn't show any actual AI on the screen. It was all done by like real artists and things like that. But it's confusing because that completely opposes the sentence that he said before. I think the conclusion is there are drawings, like architectural drawings, and some shots were generated by AI. And that, you know, people don't like that. Because a lot of people, especially people who are interested in things like film and other art forms, are generally the kind of people that are a bit more opposed to that type of generative AI, myself included. The director himself doesn't seem to be particularly apologetic. I'd say in contrast to, you know, the last case we talked about. He kind of, in an interview with Red Shark News, he said, "It is controversial in the industry to talk about AI, but it shouldn't be." Not entirely sure what that means, but that is what was said. The reason that was cited for this use of AI was to save budget. Now, The Brutalist was made on by the rest of these films, comparatively much smaller budget of $10 million, 10 million USD, a small loan of $10 million dollars. Obviously, that's a lot of money in the grand scheme of films, especially a Best Picture one. Bear in mind, again, we've got June that it's up against, which, like, let's just look up what June had as its budget. June 2 budget. Yeah, 190 million. So it's 19 times the budget compared to The Brutalist. So obviously, like, it's contending with some films that had a budget almost 20 times the size, right? I understand that, you know, budget's hype. Part of me is also like, but what you used it for was to make sketches, and commissioning like an artist to make a bunch of architectures, I feel like was not the thing that was going to burst your $10 million budget. Like, there were surely other places in which you could have saved. For example, paying some smaller actors who actually spoke Hungarian, for example. But that's just a thought. I mean, I've never had to budget a film with like a reel, but I mean, like, I've made a film. I've never had to budget a film with like that kind of budget of millions of dollars. I would just think the thing that's breaking your bank is probably not commissioning an artist to draw some architectural sketches, I would have thought. Especially if you've already got a bunch, like, you can kind of save from there. But again, I wasn't there. Maybe I shouldn't judge so much. The thing to me is that it is so ironic because The Brutalist is a film that is about artist exploitation and the importance of human creativity triumphing over capitalism. And so to have that be the point of your film, and then in it to basically deny work to artists in favor of like your classic capitalistic approach of like just popping it into mid-journey. Like, the whole point is there's this artist who's creating these designs and he's not understood by like, and it, you know, it's hard to compete with, you know, the capitalist agenda and stuff like that. And then like to go around and do this, it just feels like the creation of your film is denying the ethics that you propose in your film. It just feels like you missed the point of your own film, which really, it doesn't encourage people to go see it. It doesn't encourage people to take your film seriously if you yourself are so deliberately missing the point of your own film in the creation of the film. It just doesn't speak good. It is also kind of reminded me of a similar scandal, one could say, of another 2024 film earlier in the year. We had Civil War that came out, which was the Kirsten Dunst and Kaylee Spaney, my love, film, Civil War, which is about a hypothetical, like, dystopian American civil war set in like a possible near future, and it's about a bunch of journalists and photographers trying to document this and get like the shot being the death of the president when the rebels take over. It's all about the importance of human-made photography and the importance of human experience being present in art. And then it's a really good film, but unfortunately the posters were AI generated. Like, all the posters, like, people kind of noticed that there were lots of those classic, like, not five fingers, but there was like, you look closely and it all kind of like the actual details don't make sense. They were AI generated posters, which sucks because the whole film was about the importance of human experience in art and in photography. And it just totally like fumbled it in the poster. The film otherwise is excellent, but it's kind of like a similar thing. I will say, going back to The Brutalist, it hasn't totally screwed over the film for sure. However, I fear this scandal may be just enough of a kick to give its main competitor, specifically for Best Actor, in A Complete Unknown, the win over them, especially because of the lack of Adrian Brody actually speaking Hungarian. Like, I feel like ethically that one's a little less contentious than the use of image generation. It might give it... Now I want to look up the bloody BAFTAs. Yeah, so Adrian Brody won for The Brutalist. But for the BAFTAs, Timmy Tim wasn't even nominated. So, oh my god, Hugh Grant was, sorry, this is a total side. I didn't realize Hugh Grant got a nomination for Heretic over Timothée Chalamet. That's really funny, actually. That's actually hilarious. He did a great job. Like, that's totally fair. It's just kind of, it's surprising to me. But that's not the point. I don't think it might just be the kick, though, to kind of put it in the grave. I do think before this, it was a real good shot in for Best Picture, and I think after this, it's definitely hurt its chances. Has it completely fumbled it? No, I think it may have fumbled Best Actor, but clearly not entirely. I mean, it got for the BAFTAs. But I'm gonna give this a fumble rating of 5 out of 10. Definitely not completely screwed. However, they may have fumbled the bag on this one. We'll see. Now, we're moving on to the big kahuna of fumbles. This is the moment, I'm sure, if you have been keeping up at all with this story, you will know is coming. Amelia Perez. This is the story of a Mexican lawyer is offered an unusual job to help a notorious cartel boss retire and transition into living as a woman, fulfilling a long-held desire. This film really caught people's attention when award season came around at the end of last year and started really picking up traction with award groups. It did really well at the Golden Globes. It got a lot of BAFTA nominations, it got a lot of Oscar nominations, and most people were thinking, what the fuck is this film? I hadn't really heard of it. I think the only thing I'd kind of heard about it was that it was a film that Selena Gomez was in and speaks Spanish in. I didn't even know it was a musical. Most people didn't know it was a musical. Most people were shocked that it won over Wicked in the Golden Globes. That, for best comedy/musical, that was kind of crazy. Because if you've seen, I was around this time when the Golden Globes came out, there's a specific clip towards the beginning of the film that you may have seen.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation. I see.
It's a kind of, like, as a theatre kid, a bastardization of musicals, just from a musical perspective. The film is apparently just not good, as well as what I've heard, which is why it's kind of crazy that it got the nominations that it did. The lead actress, Carla Sofia Gascon, it was historical in fact that she is the first openly trans woman to be nominated for the lead actress role. That's huge, you know. That's a great thing, you know. It's a huge step for the trans community. It's unfortunate that it was for a film that sucked so bad. This, you know, the scandal of this film, though, however, is not the scandal that it was shit. The scandal really started, well, it started first when Carla Sofia Gascon just started attacking Fernando Torres for seemingly no reason in an interview. This is such a big no-no in the Academy. People people play dirty in awards and things. Like, people will, you know, leak tweets or fumbles. It is possible that a lot of these things, like Fernando Torres's, you know, blackface debacle, the reason that came out was, you know, other studios and rival like competitors kind of leaking that information. Like, they probably pay. I'm aware that people are paying people to, like, dig up dirt when it is time for these seasons to roll out, so that you can screw over the other team of winning, the other films of winning awards, because, as you know, we've covered, it's super political, but you can't openly do it. You've got to pretend you're playing nice. You've got to smile and clap even when you don't win the award. You've got to practice your Oscar losing face. It is such a big no-no to openly go, fuck this person. I hate them. What Gascon said was, in an interview said, what I don't like are social media teams, people who work with these people, trying to diminish our work, like me and my movie, because that doesn't lead anywhere. You don't need to tear down someone's work to highlight another's. I have never at any point said anything bad about Fernanda Torres or her movie. However, there are people working with Fernanda Torres tearing me and Amelia Perez down. That speaks more about their movie than mine. The problem here is that she was not asked about Fernanda Torres. She just kind of like brought her up, which it's just not a PR trained move. You've got to, when you're in the spotlight and you're up for Best Picture as well as a host of other Oscars, you can't be chatting like this. It's just not the done thing. She later clarified that she was referencing the toxicity and violent hate speech on social media that I sadly continue to experience. It did not intend to implicate those directly associated with Torres. Yeah, the thing is, though, that she didn't say that, though, is the thing. What she said was, fuck Fernanda Torres. She didn't actually say that, but she basically said that this is a thing Fernanda Torres... Like, that's what she said. She didn't actually speak about hate speech that she was receiving. Her apology kind of implicates that, you know, oh, no, I meant, like, people are attacking me because I'm a trans woman, which I'm sure they are doing, because there's so many transphobes on the internet. But that's not what she said at all. What she said was Fernanda Torres and her team is attacking me and my film and trying to tear me down. And she said she didn't intend to implicate those directly. You did. That's what you said. And you didn't correct yourself after. It's giving you did intend, but, you know, it unfortunately does get worse from here. It's only getting worse. With a series of... similar to Fernanda Torres, resurfaced tweets. I will preface, before we go into these, I'll just put a content warning. These are insane. These are some absolutely... They were all in Spanish originally. They've been translated. I've been told from native Spanish speakers that it sounds worse in Spanish if you are fluent in Spanish. I'm not fluent in Spanish, so I can't confirm or deny that. We have the translations, and I can tell you, in English, they sound horrendous. Like, this is some hate speech. Pure and simple hate speech. In a lot of the reporting for this, I'd also like to note that they're calling them resurfaced tweets or, you know, old tweets and things like that. These tweets are from between 2020 and 2022, right? These are as recently as like 2 years ago. We're pretty early into 2025. These are not that old. People are kind of using this language of resurfaced tweets to kind of give the impression that is from like 20 years ago or something, perhaps like, you know, Fernanda Torres' 2008 thing. These were not old things. These were a couple years old. And also tweets that were made when Gascon was a working actress, and also an openly trans actress, which means, you know, unfortunately that does mean that you're in the spotlight and representing, you know, your community. But she was a working actress. She'd worked in numerous, you know, projects. She knew, you know, she was aiming to be a high profile person. That was like her whole thing. And she was putting these out there. I will say, maybe skip this part if you don't want to hear some hate speech. I'm going to censor it because some of these are things that I should just not be saying, and also include some slurs that I will definitely not be saying. But with that, just for educational purposes, some of the things that she was saying, she tweeted that Islam is becoming a hotbed of infection for humanity that urgently needs to be cured. She also talked about terrorist attacks and referred to Muslims as the R-word followers of Allah. In 2021, with the Oscars, this is especially bad because she's again yapping on about the Oscars. This was a year where people like Daniel Kaluuya, Yu Jong-yoon, and Chloe Zhao all received winnings. And she said, more and more the #Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent protest films. I didn't know if I was watching an Afro-Korean festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, ... an ugly, ugly gala. Obviously, this is so fucking ironic because, you know, she has received all this press for being the first openly trans woman to be nominated for Best Actress. This is a film that seemed to be about, you know, trans representation, and yet she's yapping on about how terrible it is that Daniel Kaluuya and Chloe Zhao were winning Oscars, which were so well deserved for their incredible performances. It's just kind of this thing where it's like, because, you know, Black people, Asian people, people of color in general just exist, it's inherently like a political statement that their work is being recognized. Their work was good. Sorry, I don't need to be explaining why these tweets are crazy. But, you know, here we go. It's so ironic to be someone, you know, that is trying to, you know, become, like, that is getting known for the first openly trans actress to be, you know, knowledge is now going, I hate this DI bullshit. It's just like, come on. You, of all people, should know better. Another one. We've got a COVID era post that reads, the Chinese vaccine, apart from the mandatory chip, comes with 2 spring rolls, a cat that moves its hand, 2 plastic flowers, a pop-up lantern, 3 telephone lines, and €1 for your first controlled purchase. Bit of racism there. Another one. Oh gosh. I'm actually not going to read this next one. It'll be up on the screen if you'd like to look at it. But for those who are unable to, I will say it is basically saying it's Hitler defense, which is so outrageous. Kind of claiming that he just had an opinion about, you know, the Jewish community, which is obviously just an absolutely insane statement to make. Yeah, all right. Moving on to a new, this is more specific hatred that she now has to say about people. So this is about Adele. She said, COVID passed, she went overboard with the sleeves, or she went under the knife and they didn't remove the skin from her arms at Adele. She really wanted her to see that one. She thought she'd just start attacking, you know, random celebrities. There's another one where she attacks Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez, as kind of previously mentioned, is her co-star in Amelia Perez. So it's just, she calls her a rich rat who plays the poor bastard whenever she can and will never stop bothering her ex-boyfriend and his wife. It's just like, if you're trying to be in the public eye, just slewing these unfounded claims of hate against other people in your industry is crazy. Especially, you know, this coming up now when this is her co-worker. Crazy business. Just further crazy business. As, you know, stated, she had transitioned in 2014. She was well in the public eye. She's been working as an actress for like 20 years or something. Since the early 2000s. She's been working for a very long time. She should know damn well to not, that this is, if these must be your thoughts, they are inside thoughts. She apologized. As we do, we come to the apology. Her apology was a load of shit. She said, it's a long statement. All right. I want to acknowledge the conversation around my past social media posts that have caused hurt. As someone in a marginalized community, I know this suffering all too well, and I am deeply sorry to those that I have caused pain. All my life, I have fought for a better world, and I believe light will always triumph over darkness. Not what that looks like. It's again the use of past tweets, and I just want to remind everyone that these were as recently as 2022. These are not old tweets. These are not decades old. This is not a lot of time has passed. It's not like these are, you know, from when she was 15 and, you know, now she's had so much time to grow as a person. These are recent things. She was a full adult when she said these hate speech, right? She knew what she was doing, and this was what was said. After she kind of popped that little statement out, she deactivated her Twitter account, not calling it X, don't give a shit, sorry, then gave another statement, this time to The Hollywood Reporter. It was the following day. It begins, I'm sorry, but I can no longer allow this campaign of hate and misinformation to affect neither my family nor me anymore. As a part of this society, I've expressed my disagreement or agreement with all the related issues that have touched me, and of which I have had an opinion, often erroneous, which has changed throughout my own experience. I've always used my social media as a diary, reflection, or notes to later create stories or characters. not as something that would be scrutinized down to the last of its 140 characters, since sometimes I myself am not even aware of having written something negative. I have defended each and every one of the minorities in this world and supported freedom of religion and any action against racism and homophobia in the same way that I have criticized the hypocrisy that underlies them, because the first thing I'm critical of is myself. That's just not true. I mean, the defense of, like, I didn't think about it, I'm just tweeting, it's just like, there's so much to dissect here, right, about what is wrong with this statement. Calling it a campaign of hate and misinformation, ma'am, they're your own tweets. You did the information. It's not misinformation to say that you are racist for tweeting something racist. That's pointing at a fish and calling it a fish. That's what it is, right? It's not misinformation. And it's also to say, like, guys, I just use this in my diary. Well, your diary's private. Maybe if you're going to write stuff about Adolf Hitler, maybe keep it private, all right? It would be my personal advice. I didn't think it would be scrutinized. Well, you were working in an industry that was going to make you very public if you were successful. You knew that. You were an adult. This was not a long time ago. To be scrutinized, it's not scrutiny. The base meaning of your messages. If the base meaning is incredibly offensive, the apology is just lacking all accountability, and it's frankly just like false, like saying, oh no, I'm always defending minorities. You've been complaining about the existence of minorities in, like, your things, to also go, like, you know, as a member of a marginalized community myself, well, you're not really, like, acting like you have a lot of empathy for them. It's just a lot of tripe that I'm seeing. Just a lot of rubbish. Oh, she continues. Perhaps my words are not correct, many times due to ignorance or pure mistake. We'll get into this later. I apologize again if anyone has ever felt offended or in the future. I'm a human being who has also made, makes, and will make mistakes from which I will learn. I am not perfect. Taking my words out of context or manipulating them to hurt me is something I am not responsible for. Forgive me, because I keep going from one side to the other and I cannot be responding to every single thing you bring up to try to sink me. But if you want, you can continue attacking me as if I were responsible for hunger and wars in the world. I apologize again if I've ever offended anyone with the words in my life. I am only Carla Sofia Gascon, an actress who has reached where very few have thanks to her effort and work, without stealing or harming anyone in this world, just trying to get them to let me live in peace, love, and respect, something that seems to bother a lot of people in this world. It's clear that there is something very dark behind it, but I will tell you something. The more you try to sink me, the stronger it will make me, the greater my victory will be. To CNN in Spanish, she said, I believe I've been judged, I've been convicted and sacrificed and crucified and stoned without a trial and without the option to defend myself. Yeah, it's the worst kind of apology you can give. It's a non-apology, saying I'm sorry to people if I offended you. What you said was, like, you don't need to be a sensitive person to be offended by this. This was crazy stuff to be spouting out. And it was just such a non-apology, and to act as if, you know, people are stretching by calling it, like, racist is also crazy, because it just was. Her co-stars have since responded, because obviously this is a lot, right? This is by far the heaviest scandal that we have kind of seen placed upon us. In an interview with Variety's awards-focused podcast, Saldana said that the situation has left her sad. Time and time again, that's the word, because that is the sentiment that has been living in my chest since everything happened. I'm also disappointed. I can't speak for other people's actions. All I can attest to is my own experience. Never in a million years did I believe that we would be here. I think that's a fair thing to respond. I mean, look, it's a very PR, you know, well PR-trained response. She's saying her feelings. She's not, you know, attacking her co-star because she's, you know, got to be professional, and she doesn't want to fumble, I guess, her own bag. I have no qualms with that response. It's not her responsibility that her co-star is evil. Not maybe evil is a strong word. But, you know, deeply has some deeply hateful things to say. Selena Gomez more recently somewhat responded. So in a Q&A shared by the Los Angeles Times, she said, I'm really good. Some of the magic has disappeared, but I choose to continue to be proud of what I've done, and I'm just grateful. I live with no regrets, and I would do this movie over and over again. if I could. I think that's also a fair nomination. Like, she doesn't want to speak in the fact that this person calls her a rat, a rich rat. I think both of these are very fair responses. Gascon is refusing to give up her nomination. As you can see, she's not very sorry. She has, however, been removed from all promotional material in kind of the lead up to the Oscars, and Netflix has refused to fly her out to LA for the Oscars. So if she is going there, she's going to buy her own ticket to the Oscars. These are so expensive. Normally the studios, pay for the actors to go there. She is not being helped financially to go there. So it means she will be going there, outfit, makeup, flights, everything on her own dime. That's going to be very pricey. We'll see if she ends up going, and also where she'll be seated will also be an interesting one. I guess only time will tell. Kind of leading back to that, I want to kind of go back to the fact that everyone was pretty surprised how well Emilia Perez was doing in the first place. At the 82nd Golden Globe Awards about a month ago, the film won 4, including Best Motion Picture in Musical Comedy and Best Foreign Language Film out of its 10 nominations. It won, 4 out of 10, which is pretty good for any film. At the Academy Awards, it got 13 nominations, including Best Director, Best Leading Actress, and Best Picture. A huge amount of nominations, even though I don't know a single person who's seen this film and thought it was even slightly decent. I mean, the clips that are going around, you can see it doesn't look good.
Sex change operation.
It is, by critic standards, offensive, most prominently to the queer community, but I have heard it has some, pretty poor representation of Mexican culture. It kind of represents Mexican culture as all overly thuggish and focused on the cartel and stuff, which is obviously there is so much more to Mexican culture. But from the LGBTQ plus community, they have been much more openly critical. Speaking for NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour, critic Rihanna Cruz said that it seemed like the filmmaker was painting trans women as liars. Glad called it a profoundly retrograde portrayal of a trans woman and a step backward for trans representation. Drew Burnett Gregory, writing for Autostraddle, said, "How many times do cis people have to learn about us before a portrayal like this one rings to them as false as it does to me?" Then editors of the American LGBT magazine titled Them claimed the film perpetrates the idea of transness as so completely from the cis imagination. Lisa Lehman from Culturess lamented how Emilia Perez was yet another transcentric film focused excessively on surgeries and only seemed to have one trans character in its entire cast, really just being a very cis-focused film. In El País, Paul B. Preciado described the film as a polysemic amalgam loaded with racism and transphobia, anti-Latino exorcism, and melodramatic binarism, which reinforces the colonial and pathological narrative of both gender transition and Mexican culture. It overall is just... I'm aware that there is a scene in which she describes herself as half man, half woman, because she was born with a dick. Not what I would, I think for most of the trans community, this is not the portrayal they want of what it is to be a trans woman. And there was kind of, a discussion that perhaps the film, there was some, tomfoolery played in the fact that it was getting this many wins and nominations in the first place, whether this was something stuff going on behind the scenes. It could be, it's not crazy to say in Hollywood that the Academy would dare to have awards based not solely on merit. It is also possible that the Academy is riddled with people, cis, het, straight people who might not know how bad this is because they are not from these communities. It just, from what I've seen, doesn't seem the clip, from a musical perspective as well, the film, it's musically poor and the writing is bad. And I don't know anyone that likes it. But it was doing shockingly well before this, which has this fumbled it. I think, look, I'm going to say, Carla Escamilla gone, she's done. She's not winning any more awards. She's not winning Best Actress. She's cooked. That's not happening. As much as I'd love to have a trans woman win the role for Best Actress, I don't want it to be her. So someone else, I think, win it. Look, I love Demi Moore to win it. I think her role in the performance and the substance was so incredible. I do not think... I think this has screwed the pooch in terms of Emilia Perez winning Best Picture. I think this has really woken a lot of people up to how horrendous this film is, and I think it's not going to win. I would give this fumble rating 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10 fumble, even though it is just involving this one woman. The film itself is just a fumble. It's an offensive film. It's a poor portrayal of trans people. It's musically bad. It's a poor portrayal of Mexican culture. It's a bad film. It doesn't deserve to win, and I don't think it's going to win. And I think a scandal is really what it kind of needed to kick the bucket, basically. Now, the question is, who is going to win? If we go back to our little list at the top, what we have left is, from the non-scandals, we have A Complete Unknown from Searchlight Pictures, we have Conclave from Focus Features, we have June Part 2, we have Nickel Boys, and Wicked. From this, I would personally, I'm going to place my bets on Conclave. I have seen Conclave. It was amazing. I think it is not everyone's cup of tea, but it's an Academy. It's going to be an Academy thing. Some people have argued that Conclave did have some scandal in the fact that some people from the Catholic Church didn't like it. But from what I've seen, it's very much in the way that the Catholic Church didn't like the Feather music video by Sabrina Carpenter. The Catholic Church is not known for its ability to have any sort of commentary on it that isn't, 100% positive. They're not known for their ability to take criticism, are they? So we'll look past that. It wasn't a real scandal. And I think it was, it has Ray Fiennes did an amazing job. It has, the critical acclaim that the Academy is looking for, and also like the popular people seem to have liked it. It's very serious. It's not going to be everyone's thing, but and it has what the Academy loves. It has a bunch of white dudes playing the main characters, and Hollywood loves white dudes. Out of our quote unquote cancelled list, the one I would say, I feel like Anora still has the hottest chance. However, I'm gonna say my personal bet for this Oscar season is going to be Conclave. I'm putting it out here. Conclave, I think, is what is going to be the winner. Best Actor, I think Timothée Chalamet is going to win Best Actor, and I think Demi Moore's going to win Best Leading Actress. And I'm going to put that in writing out here. But with that brings us to the end of our first episode on why does no one want to win Best Picture at the Oscars. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, save the episode, give us a review. It would be very appreciated. Give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. My name's Emily. Have a good one. Toodaloo.